Commander Minji stood on the rooftop of the military base, watching the sky turn black. It was 3 in the afternoon, but darkness was spreading across Seoul like spilled ink. The alien ships looked like giant black clouds, but they moved with purpose. They were not clouds at all. "Commander, we're getting reports from all sectors," Sergeant Hayen called from behind her. His voice was shaking. "The enemy ships are blocking out the sun everywhere they go." Minji grabbed her binoculars and looked up. The alien vessels were massive, each one the size of a city block. They floated silently above Seoul, casting shadows that seemed to swallow everything below. The temperature was already dropping. Street lights began turning on automatically, confused by the sudden darkness. "All units, prepare for combat," Minji spoke into her radio. "We don't know what they want, but we'll be ready." The first attack came without warning. Beams of pure darkness shot down from the alien ships. Where they hit, everything went black. Not just dark, but completely empty of light. Mingi watched in horror as an entire city block simply disappeared into shadow. "Return fire," she shouted. The human soldiers opened fire with everything they had. Bullets, missiles, and artillery shells streaked toward the alien ships. But when the weapons hit the dark vessels, they seemed to disappear. The ships absorbed the attacks like sponges soaking up water. Then the aliens sent down their ground forces. Mingi had never seen anything like them. They moved like liquid shadow, flowing down from their ships in dark streams. When they took solid form, they looked almost human, but made of living darkness. Their eyes glowed red, and they carried weapons that shot beams of concentrated night. "Fall back to defensive positions," Minji ordered, but it was already too late. The shadow soldiers moved faster than anything human. They flowed around corners like water, passed through walls like ghosts, and struck with deadly precision. When their dark energy weapons hit human soldiers, the men and women simply collapsed and stopped moving. Private Sahi ran up to Mingi, breathing hard. "Commander, we can't stop them. Our bullets go right through them sometimes, and other times they bounce off like hitting steel. We don't understand how they work." Minji's radio crackled with reports from around the city. "Base 7 is overrun. We've lost contact with the Eastern District. They're everywhere." The power went out across Seoul. The alien ships had done something to the electrical grid. Emergency generators kicked in, but even those began failing one by one. The aliens were not just blocking light from above, they were stealing light from below too. "Commander Mingi, this is General Park," came a voice over the military emergency channel. "Tokyo has gone completely dark. We lost contact with our forces there 2 hours ago. London is reporting the same situation. These attacks are happening worldwide." Minji felt cold fear in her stomach. This was not just an attack on Seoul or South Korea. This was an attack on all of humanity. She watched as one of her soldiers shot at a shadow creature with a flame. The fire seemed to work for a moment, pushing the alien back. But then more shadows flowed around the flame like water around a rock. The soldier disappeared into the darkness with a brief scream. "All units, focus on light-based weapons," Minji ordered. "Flamethrowers, searchlights, anything that produces bright light. It seems to be our only defense." But there were so few light sources left. The aliens had been smart about their attack. First, they blocked the sun. Then they destroyed the power grid. Now they were hunting down every source of light they could find. Lieutenant Doyen came running up with terrible news. "Commander, they're doing something to the sky. Our weather satellites show they're pumping some kind of gas into the upper atmosphere. The scientists think they're trying to make the darkness permanent." Minji looked up at the black sky. She could see more alien ships arriving, darker shapes against the artificial night. They were not here to conquer in the traditional sense. They were here to remake Earth into something else entirely. Her radio crackled again with a weak signal. "This is Captain Lee, in Busan. We're completely surrounded. They don't seem to want prisoners. They're just making everything dark. The whole city is like a black hole now. The signal went dead. Minji realized that humanity was fighting an enemy they did not understand at all. These aliens did not want Earth's resources or its people. They wanted its light. They were creatures of shadow and darkness, and they were turning Earth into their kind of world. As the last emergency lights in Seoul flickered and died, Minji made a decision. She grabbed the remaining soldiers around her. We're going underground. The subway tunnels still have some emergency power. We regroup there and figure out how to fight back. But as she led her small group toward the subway entrance, Minji wondered if there was any way to fight an enemy that could steal light itself. Humanity had entered a war unlike any in its history, and they were losing badly. Dr. Jinwoo wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the small computer screen. The subway tunnel was cold and damp, but working with the makeshift equipment made him hot. Around him, other survivors had built a small camp using old train cars and concrete barriers. Children played quietly in the corners while adults whispered about food rations and patrol schedules. 6 months ago, Jinwoo had been a respected scientist with a clean laboratory and expensive equipment. Now he worked with broken pieces of electronics that the resistance fighters brought him from raids above ground. But today, he had found something important. "Commander Minji, you need to see this," he called out. Minji walked over her uniform, dirty and torn. She looked tired like everyone else in the underground. Leading the resistance was hard work, with little sleep and less food. "What did you find, Dr. She asked. Jinwoo pointed at the screen. "I've been studying pieces of the shadow creatures that our fighters brought back. Look at this." He pressed a button, and the screen showed a strange pattern. "When I shine certain types of light on their tissue, something happens. The molecular structure breaks apart." "What kind of light?" Minji leaned closer. "Specific wavelengths. Very bright, very focused light. The kind we can make with modified laser equipment or concentrated solar energy." Jinwoo's eyes were excited for the first time in months. "Commander, we finally have a weapon that works against them." Lieutenant Minho came running down the tunnel, his boots splashing in the water that always pooled on the tracks. His team was back from another raid above ground. They carried backpacks full of supplies and weapons. "How did it go?" Minji asked. Minho shook his head. "Bad news and worse news. The bad news is they've set up more of those processor facilities. Big machines that pump dark gas into the air. The worst news is our scouts say the sky is getting thicker. Soon, no sunlight will get through at all." Dr. Jinwoo stood up quickly. "How many processor facilities are there now?" "We've counted at least 50 around Seoul alone. Probably hundreds around the world." Minho sat down heavily on a concrete block. "They're working fast. Every day, the air gets darker." "Show him what we found, Doctor," Minji said. Jinwoo explained his discovery to Minho. The lieutenant listened carefully, then looked at the equipment the doctor had built. "So we can hurt them with the right kind of light?" Minho asked. "More than hurt them. I think we can destroy them completely." Jinwoo pulled up another screen. "But we need powerful light sources. Much more powerful than flashlights or regular lamps." Minho smiled for the first time in weeks. "I know where we can get those." Over the next few days, Minho led raids to steal equipment from abandoned solar power plants and military bases. His teams worked at night when the shadow creatures were most active, but also when they could move without being seen by the alien ships. Above, the resistance fighters learned to move like ghosts through the city. They used the old subway tunnels and sewer systems to travel unseen. When they had to go above ground, they moved quickly and stayed in groups. Young Sora, who had been an engineering student before the invasion, helped Dr. Jinwoo build new weapons. They took apart solar panels and laser equipment to create devices that could focus bright light into deadly beams. "It's like making artificial sunlight," Sora explained to the other resistance members, "but much stronger and more focused." The First test was successful. When they captured a shadow creature and hit it with the concentrated light beam, it screamed and dissolved completely. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had killed one of the aliens. But Dr. Jinwoo brought bad news to the resistance. Leaders, I've been studying the atmospheric readings, he said during a meeting in the old subway control room. The aliens are changing our air permanently. In 2 weeks, maybe 3 at most, the changes will be too deep to reverse. Earth will be dark forever. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. What do we need to do? Commander Minji asked. Hit all the processor facilities at the same time, Jinwoo said. If we destroy them together, in one coordinated attack, we might be able to stop the atmospheric changes. But if we hit them one by one, the aliens will learn from our attacks and make their remaining facilities stronger. Lieutenant Minho looked at the map of Seoul they had drawn on the wall. Red marks showed where the processor facilities were located. We don't have enough people or equipment to hit 50 targets at once. Then we contact the other resistance groups, Minji said. We know there are survivors in other cities, other countries. This has to be a worldwide effort. Commander, Minho said quietly. Most of our people won't survive this kind of attack. We're talking about sending small teams against heavily defended targets, all at the same time, with no backup and no retreat. Minji nodded. She understood. It's a suicide mission, but it's our only chance. Dr. Jinwoo added. If we don't try this, humanity dies slowly in the dark. If we do try it, at least some of us might live to see sunlight again. The resistance fighters spent the next week preparing. They built as many light weapons as possible and contacted survivor groups around the world, using hidden radio equipment. The plan was desperate and dangerous, but it was their only hope for saving Earth from permanent darkness. Engineer Sora crawled through the ventilation shaft, her heart beating fast. Behind her, 3 other resistance fighters moved quietly through the metal tunnel. Below them, they could hear the strange humming sounds that alien machines made. The processor facility was huge, built inside what used to be Seoul's main power plant. The aliens had changed everything. Dark metal covered the walls, and strange symbols glowed with red light. The air felt thick and wrong, like breathing soup. Target is straight ahead, whispered Jaein, the team leader. He had been a police officer before the invasion. Now he carried weapons that shot concentrated light beams. Sora, you'll have maybe 15 minutes before they notice we're here. Sora nodded. She had been an engineering student, but the resistance needed someone who understood computers. For months, she had studied pieces of alien technology that fighters brought back from raids. She was their best hope of breaking into the alien network. They dropped down into a room full of alien computers. The machines looked like black crystals growing out of the floor. Symbols moved across their surfaces like living things. Sora had never seen anything so complex and strange. I'm starting the translation software, she whispered into her radio. Dr. Jinwoo had helped her build a program that could read alien symbols. It was not perfect, but it worked most of the time. Her fingers moved across the alien interface. The surface felt cold and smooth, like touching ice. Symbols appeared and disappeared under her hands. Slowly, the translation software began making sense of the alien language. This is incredible, Sora breathed. I'm seeing their whole communication network. They're connected to facilities all over the planet. Outside the computer room, she could hear fighting starting. The other resistance fighters were holding off alien patrols while she worked. Plasma weapons lit up the corridors with bright flashes. Sora, how much longer? Jagan's voice was tense. I need more time. I'm almost into their central database. Her hands moved faster across the alien controls. The symbols were becoming clearer as the translation software learned their patterns. Then she saw something that made her gasp. Deep in the alien files, she found biological information about their species. Pictures and data showed creatures that lived in complete darkness. Not just nighttime darkness, but total absence of light. Commander Mingy, are you listening? Sora spoke into her radio. I'm here. What did you find? Mingy's voice crackled through the static. These aliens, they've never seen sunlight. Not once in their entire evolutionary history. Sora's eyes were wide as she read more data. Their home planet has no star. They evolved in the space between stars, feeding on cosmic radiation and dark energy. An explosion shook the building. The alien patrols were getting closer. Their biology is completely adapted to darkness, Sora continued, her voice excited. Despite the danger. Look at this data. When they're exposed to bright light, their cells break down. They literally cannot handle photons from a normal star. How bright? Mingy asked. Sunrise-level brightness would be deadly to them. Even artificial light that matches sunlight wavelengths would cause massive biological damage. Sora downloaded as much data as she could onto her portable drive. Jay appeared in the doorway, his face grim. We've got multiple shadow patrols converging on this position. We need to move now. 5 more minutes, Sora begged. I'm downloading their planetary network access codes. If we can get into their main system, we can coordinate attacks on all their facilities at once. You don't have 5 minutes, Jay shot back. A plasma blast lit up the corridor behind him. We lost Kyung-ho and Minseo already. The rest of us won't last much longer. Sora's hands flew across the alien interface. The symbols were moving faster now, responding to her commands. She was deep in their central network, seeing files about their terraforming project. I found it, she whispered. They're not just blocking sunlight to make Earth dark. They're changing our atmosphere because they physically cannot survive in the presence of normal stellar radiation. Earth's sun would kill them if they were exposed to it. The translation software finished, downloading a massive file. Sora grabbed her equipment and stood up. I have everything we need. Network access, biological weaknesses, facility locations worldwide. Commander Mingy, this changes everything. Sora said into her radio as they ran toward the exit. We don't just need to destroy their processors. We need to create artificial sunrise. If we can flood their facilities with concentrated stellar spectrum light, we can kill them all. Behind them, shadow creatures poured into the computer room. Plasma blasts filled the air. Jaeon pushed Sora ahead of him as they ran. The subway entrance is 50 meters ahead, he shouted. But more aliens were coming from that direction too. They were surrounded. Take this. Sora shoved the data drive into Ji-Yoon's hands. Get it to Dr. Jinwoo. He'll know what to do with it. We're all getting out of here, Jaehan said, but his voice showed he knew better. 2 more resistance fighters fell as shadow weapons found their targets. Sora realized that half their team would not make it back to the underground base. But the information she had found would save humanity, even if it cost their lives. The data about the aliens' fatal weakness was now in human hands. The real war was about to begin. Lieutenant Minho checked his watch. 3 in the morning. In resistance bases around the world, fighters were getting ready for the most important battle in human history. Operation Daybreak would either save Earth or destroy what was left of humanity. All stations, this is Commander Mingy, came the voice over the radio. Operation Daybreak begins now. Remember, we only get one chance at this. Minho looked at his squad. They were positioned on the roof of an old office building, overlooking one of the alien processor facilities. Their job was to protect the relay station that would help create the artificial sunrise. If they failed, the whole operation would fail. You all know what we're fighting for, Minho told his soldiers. Our families, our planet, our future. Today, we take back the sun. The relay station looked like a giant mirror pointed at the sky. Dr. Jinwoo had explained how it worked. Solar satellites high above Earth would collect sunlight from the side of the planet where it was day. Then they would beam that concentrated light down to relay stations like this one. The relay stations would redirect the light to special fusion charges in the upper atmosphere. When all the fusion charges exploded at the same time, they would create an artificial sunrise that covered the whole planet. The light would be so bright that it would destroy every alien on Earth's surface. Movement in the facility, called out Private Junho. He was looking through binoculars. Shadow creatures are coming out. Lots of them. Minho raised his light cannon. The weapon was heavy and took 2 people to operate, but it could cut through shadow aliens like a knife through paper. Remember, protect the relay station at all costs. If that mirror gets damaged, people die. The first wave of aliens flowed across the street like a black river. They moved fast, but Minho's squad was ready. Light cannons fired bright beams that tore through the shadow creatures. For a moment, it looked like the humans might hold their position easily. Then the big aliens arrived. These were different from the smaller shadow soldiers. They were huge, as tall as trucks, and their armor seemed to absorb light instead of being hurt by it. The regular light cannons barely slowed them down. "We need more power," shouted Sergeant Bowman. He cranked up his weapon to maximum setting. The light beam got brighter, but it also started overheating the cannon. More aliens poured out of the processor facility. They came from all directions now, surrounding the building where Minho's squad was positioned. The relay station behind them hummed with power as it received signals from the satellites above. "Commander Minji, this is Minho," he spoke into his radio. "We're completely surrounded. They're bringing everything they have at us. How long can you hold?" Minji's voice was tense. Minho looked around. Half his squad was already down. The aliens were climbing the outside of the building now. "Not long. How much more time do you need?" "Dr. Jinwoo says 15 minutes until the fusion charges are ready." 15 minutes felt like forever. Minho's light cannon was running low on power. Around him, his soldiers were using everything they had. Flamethrowers, modified flashlights, even signal flares. Anything that made bright light. A giant shadow creature broke through their defensive line. It moved toward the relay station with deadly purpose. Minho threw himself at the alien, tackling it just as it reached the mirror. They fell together, rolling across the rooftop. The alien was incredibly strong. Its claws raked across Minho's chest, tearing through his armor. But he held on, keeping it away from the relay station. Other soldiers rushed to help, their weapons firing point blank into the creature. "Sir, more big ones coming up the stairs," Private Junho yelled. Minho looked at the relay station. The mirror was glowing now, receiving massive amounts of energy from the satellites. They were so close to success. He could not let the aliens destroy it now. "All units, fall back to the relay station," he ordered. "Make a circle around it. Nothing gets through." His remaining soldiers formed a tight defensive ring. They had maybe 5 minutes of ammunition left. The aliens kept coming. Wave after wave of shadow creatures flowing up the building like a dark waterfall. "Commander Minji, I'm not making it out of here," Minho said into his radio. His voice was calm, even though aliens were all around him. "Tell them we gave Earth back her sunrise." Above them, the sky began to change. Bright points of light appeared, high in the atmosphere as the fusion charges activated. Dr. Jinwoo's calculations had been perfect. The artificial sunrise was beginning. The light grew brighter and brighter. The shadow creatures started screaming and retreating, but it was too late for them. The artificial dawn spread across the sky like fire, getting brighter every second. Min smiled as the light reached them. The aliens around him began dissolving as the artificial sunlight hit them. After months in darkness, he could finally see real light again. The explosion of light that followed could be seen from space. All around the world, the artificial sunrise spread from relay station to relay station. Shadow creatures everywhere began dying as the concentrated stellar light burned them away. But even as they retreated to their ships, the aliens had one final plan. If they could not have Earth, they would make sure humans could not have it either. Their massive command ships began falling toward the planet's major cities. Commander Minji stood on the broken rooftop, watching the alien ships fall like burning stars. The artificial sunrise had worked perfectly. All around Earth, the concentrated light was destroying shadow creatures everywhere. But the aliens had one last weapon to use against humanity. "Commander, we're tracking 12 massive ships heading straight down," reported Sergeant Wanho. His voice was shaking as he looked at the scanner. "They're not trying to escape. They're planning to crash into our cities." Minji grabbed her binoculars and looked up. The alien command ships were huge, each one the size of a mountain. Even damaged by the artificial light, they were still deadly weapons. If they hit populated areas, millions of people would die. "Where are they targeting?" she asked. "Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Moscow, all the major cities where people are hiding underground." Wanho's face was pale. "They want to kill as many humans as possible before they die." The light cannons that had been used for Operation Daybreak were still powered by the artificial sunrise, but they had been designed to fight shadow creatures on the ground, not massive spaceships falling from orbit. "Can we modify the cannons to target the ships?" Minji asked Dr. Jinwoo over the radio. "Maybe," came his tired voice. "But you'd need to focus all the light from multiple cannons onto one target, and someone would have to stay at each cannon to aim it manually. The targeting computers can't track something moving that fast." Mingi understood what he was not saying. The people operating the cannons would be directly under the falling ships. If they missed, or if the ships broke apart instead of being destroyed completely, the operators would be crushed. "I need volunteers," she announced over the Resistance radio network. "This is a one-way mission. We need people to operate the light cannons to stop the falling ships." The response was immediate. All across the city, Resistance fighters volunteered to man the cannons. They had fought too hard and lost too much to let the aliens win now. Engineer Sora limped up to Mingi, her left arm in a makeshift sling from the previous mission. "I'll take the cannon on the east side," she said. "Sora, you're injured. Let someone else do it," Mingi protested. "I helped build these cannons. I know how they work better than anyone." Sora's voice was firm. "Besides, I want to see the real son come back." Around the city, Resistance fighters took positions at the light cannon arrays. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy the falling ships, but only if they hit them perfectly. Miss by even a little bit, and the burning wreckage would still flatten entire neighborhoods. "Target the lead ship," Minji ordered into her radio. "It's heading straight for the Seoul underground shelters." The light cannons fired together, sending beams of concentrated artificial sunlight up toward the falling ship. The alien vessel was massive and moving incredibly fast. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship began to glow. The artificial light was burning through its hull like acid through metal. Pieces began breaking off and burning up in the atmosphere. But the main body was still falling toward the city. "Keep firing," Minji shouted. "Don't let up." More cannons joined the attack. The falling ship was now a burning ball of light, but it was still too big and moving too fast. If it hit the ground intact, it would create an explosion like a nuclear bomb. Sora's cannon was closest to the target. She cranked the power to maximum, far beyond safe levels. The weapon began smoking from the heat, but the light beam got brighter and more focused. "Sora, get away from there," Minji called. "The cannon is going to explode." But Sora stayed at her position, aiming the overloaded weapon at the heart of the falling ship. The light beam cut deep into the alien vessel, slicing it in half. The two pieces separated and began tumbling, breaking apart into smaller chunks that would burn up harmlessly in the atmosphere. The cannon exploded in a shower of sparks and flame. Sora was thrown clear, but she was alive. Around the world, other teams were having similar success. The falling alien ships were being destroyed one by one, their wreckage scattered safely across empty ocean and wilderness. As the last alien ship was destroyed, something amazing happened. The artificial sunrise began to fade, but it was being replaced by something even better. The real sun was breaking through the dissipating alien atmosphere. For the first time in over a year, natural sunlight touched the earth. Underground shelter doors began opening. People who had lived in darkness for months emerged blinking into the light. Their clothes were dirty, their faces were thin from hunger, and many bore scars from the long war. But they were alive, and they were free. Mingy helped Sora sit up against a pile of rubble. The young engineer's arm was hurt worse now, but she was smiling as real sunlight warmed her face. "Look at that," Sora whispered, staring up at the sky. "We did it. We actually did it." The cost had been enormous. Most of Earth's cities were in ruins. Billions of people had died during the occupation. The planet was scarred and broken, and it would take decades to rebuild. But humanity had survived. Against impossible odds, they had fought back against an enemy that controlled darkness itself. "They owned the night," Sora said quietly, watching the real sun climb higher in the clear blue sky. "But we wrote the sunrise in blood. The war was over. The night had belonged to the aliens, but humanity had claimed the dawn."